Okay, and I should be used to a mic. Kia ora koutou, ko Claire toku ingoa, no airana ho, and he te reo irirangi o Aotearoa e mahi ana aho, hey hotu aho. So my name is Claire, I'm Irish, I work at Radio New Zealand, and I am a producer. I am producer-presenter of Our Changing World. Oh, it's weird that the camera's right there. Which is a weekly science and environment show. So what this involves is I get pitched a story, or I find a story, or I decide on a topic, and I do a whole bunch of research, and I ring somebody up and I talk to them, and I invite myself along to whatever cool lab they're working in, or field they're walking up, or boat they're sailing on, and I record with them, and then I tell a story about it every week. So it's a 30-minute show. It plays on nights after the 7:00 news on Thursdays. So you'll be able to listen to that. And it also podcasts Our Changing World. It's on all of the podcast apps. You can follow that as well. And that's what I do. And I love it. It's great. It suits me perfectly. It's my job. You can't have it. Unfortunately, there's only one of it in New Zealand, but along the way, I have done a whole bunch of other science communication stuff. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about in general, is like my journey to there, how I figured out that it suited me. And I can't stick around, so I'm going to try and be quick so you can ask questions, but I'm also going to leave a bunch of, they're just red, a bunch of cards. If you want to email me or text me or whatever, if you've got questions, you can do that. You can also easily find my details online, so just do that as well. Okay. Right. So my background is biochemistry. My mum was actually a microbiologist, and one of the first things that she did that I remember her doing is when we were kids, she'd try to get us to wash our hands before dinner, and we weren't very good at it. So she bought home Petri dishes so that we would do it before and after a hand wash test. So there was science in my house. And I always kind of thought, I was going to be a great scientist. I was going to do heaps of research, stay in the lab forever, win Nobel Prizes. That was it. So I did a degree in biochemistry. I'm not really sure how I ended up there, just a bit of a wandering path, and then did genetics in third year, thought that was awesome. And so ended up doing a PhD in biochemistry in trinucleotide repeat expansion disorders. So Huntington's disease, myotonic dystrophy, but it was like basic molecular biology stuff. And it was during my PhD that I kind of figured out that I wasn't really like some of the other postgrads that were also doing PhDs alongside me, because I would get very excited about lab demonstration and hanging out with undergrads and talking about different science and explaining science. And they were just like, oh, another 3 hours that I could be in the lab pipetting. I didn't like many hours of pipetting by myself. It really didn't suit me. And so when I was doing my PhD, I started doing some science communication workshops and also volunteering at the university. And that's kind of how I got my foot in the door, because luckily, when I finished my PhD and I was writing up papers and finishing up a bit of research, there was also an outreach program that started in the university that I was in. So I started working for them part-time. And it was just awesome. It was just great. So it was science outreach. So we would take different research that was happening in the biochemistry department and bring it into schools and communities and science fairs around Galway, in the west coast of Ireland, which is where I did my degrees. And that started to grow. So we did a bit more. And so I ended up coordinating a whole bunch of different teams at different institutes to do this. And it suited me in many different ways. I love explaining different concepts of science, and I love talking to people. I'm very interested in people. So after a couple of years of doing that, we did some really fun things with that. I decided it was time to move from Galway. I had done my undergrad, taken a year out, PhD, taken a year out. and then work there. So I wanted to change it up a bit, and I applied for a job in Otago Museum. So I moved to Dunedin in February 2017, and I worked as a science communicator at Otago Museum, which hopefully you'll know has a planetarium, tropical forest, and a science center. So they were redeveloping the science center around the time that I came, and that was really exciting. But they wanted me because of my outreach coordination experience. And so very quickly, what we started doing was bidding for funds so that we could run different outreach programs around New Zealand, which again was very fun. We would do things like blow up hydrogen balloons and bring around a portable planetarium and explain to kids and adults how different aspects of science worked. And we would also pair up with different centers of research excellence or research groups, many research groups in the University of Otago, to try and explain parts of their research to different communities. So I did that for 4 and a bit years. And while I was doing that, I met a friend. I made a friend. And one night we were talking at a party, and he was like, you know what? I want to make podcasts. And I said, I want to make podcasts too. I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. And so we decided at that party that we were going to make a podcast. And we call it the Wild Dunedin podcast. And we linked it up with the Wild Dunedin Festival of Nature. And we did 2 series of that. And off the back of that, I then pitched to do an onboard outreach officer position on a paleoclimate expedition that went across the South Pacific. And I made a podcast about that. And then I got a paid podcast job with a Center of Research Excellence called the MacDiarmid Institute. And that is kind of what I had in my back pocket when this job came up. And I was underqualified for the job that I did because they looked for somebody with journalist qualifications, not me, and years of experience in radio, also not me. But I had been annoying the previous producer for many years at that stage, and I had made a freelance episode for the show because I had been annoying her, and I got an interview. And it was great because I didn't think I was going to get the job. So I was very relaxed. And then they offered it to me. And it's great. I love it. So that is how I got there. What were the other things I was going to say? And I'm running out of time quickly. I was going to say, so I was going to say, if you have an interest in science communication or science journalism, I guess the thing from my experience, and everybody's experience is different, but from mine, it's kind of just start and give it a go and see whether it suits you and see whether you like it. And that's how the opportunities will arise, as if you give it a go. Most people are not scientists, I have written down. And this is a fact. The way that you guys have learned and trained is actually pretty cool. It's a really good way of looking at the world and of assessing things. Like all of the fact checking and research that you do as part of your degree, most people don't learn that. And also, there's a huge amount of information in your brain that would boggle, and obviously they know other things that we don't know. But in terms of like things that when I said, I did my PhD in trinucleotide repeat expansion disorders, people were nodding. There's like majority of people would kind of be, what? So remember that. Your training will help you in ways you don't know yet, and that's linked to the research bit. Pay, I earn around 80,000. I'm not going to tell you exactly what. But I think what's important for me, and I would advise you to think about it as well as you start this, is to think about your values and what you want for your life. And that's going to be different for different people. And I know for me, this suits me because I'm not particularly money driven, but I do really like to keep learning. I love to meet people and I love to travel. I do a lot of traveling with my job. I've done a lot of traveling in general. And then in the work that I've done, whether it's been with the museum or whether it's been in Ireland or with this job now, I've also done a lot of traveling and learned heaps of new things. So that is me. I'm going to leave it there and I have a few minutes if people have questions. Yes, I do have a few minutes. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Question is, what is one of the biggest challenges that I've faced in getting to my career? I think I would say that for a number of years, I was paid very poorly. And, that includes PhD, right? Includes the PhD and then some of the work that I've done in science communication. That's not like that doesn't exactly answer your question, actually. But, but I guess for where I am now, that is one of the things that strikes me. In terms of challenge, to get to where I am, I think there was a lot of luck for me. Like I said, there's only one of this job that I'm doing in New Zealand. Now you can definitely create it. This is what an amazing time you guys live in. You can just make your own podcast. You can monetize that. You can do it. But for me, I was super lucky. It was just serendipity that the previous producer who had done the job for 12 and a half years retired at a time that I had a bit of experience and I was doing a freelance episode for the show and, the stars aligned kind of thing. Sweet. Okay. Cards are here. Find me online. Ask any questions. Send me an email. And best of luck.